Europeans didn't inherit history. They burned it. Not out of ignorance, but because they knew the truth would void the receipts. The truth would collapse the entire storyline. So they rewrote the narrative in powdered wigs, hiding genocides under Latin and renaming every theft as discovery. This wasn't documentation. It was branding. Europeans didn't study other civilizations. They studied how to erase them and still pass the test. The moment they touched a library, it caught fire. Egypt, the Rosetta Stone was looted. The nose of the Sphinx was blown off. They stood over the ruins and declared Africa illiterate. India, Nalanda, one of the world's oldest universities, torched. 9 million manuscripts vanished. Then they published textbooks claiming Europe invented math. Mesoamerica, over 5,000 Maya codices burned in church bonfires, called satanic, and then centuries later copied for European astronomy. Mali, Timbuktu had more written texts than all of medieval Europe, and France buried them in sand until African scholars smuggled them out in the dark to preserve their own knowledge from European archivists. This isn't history. This is a global arson scene, and the suspects kept the ashes. They didn't just erase, they rebranded. Algebra becomes Western math. Optics becomes Galileo's dream. Surgery, astronomy, navigation, pulled from Arabic, African, and Asian sources, stripped of origin, and resold in powdered French as the Enlightenment. They erased the Ethiopian roots of early Christianity, the Nubian queens who governed astronomical calendars, the zero-based logic of India, the land stewardship of the Haudenosaunee, the feminist inheritance of the Ibwa, and replaced it all with a montage of pale men thinking in cellars. They didn't progress. They plagiarized and pretended to be the source. The Renaissance wasn't a rebirth. It was a break-in. While Europe was still exercising women for having dreams, the Islamic world had hospitals, legal scholarship, chemistry labs, and academic peer review. And when Europe finally woke up, it did so by translating Arabic texts, texts that had already preserved Greek, Indian, Persian, and African thought. Ibn Sina becomes a father of medicine with a Latin name. Ibn al-Haytham becomes a precursor to optics, even though his work predates Descartes by half a millennium. This wasn't a rediscovery. It was relay theft, with the baton of knowledge passed through fire, and then whitewashed mid-sprint. Even their map slide. The Mercator projection stretches Europe, shrinks Africa, and centers the world around imperial delusion. The Middle East is only middle if Europe is the sun. Western civilization includes Australia and Canada, but not Ethiopia and Mexico, even though they had alphabets before Greek even existed. They called Africa tribal and forgot Europe was governed by inbred warlords in muddy castles with no plumbing. They called Haiti violent and named cities after Napoleon. They called indigenous science myth and European mythology canon. They stole bronze from Benin, called it art preservation, and then locked it behind glass and slapped a plaque on it that says gift. Stolen artifacts were labeled generous. Massacres were called missions. Human trafficking was called trade. This isn't historical confusion. It's weaponized curriculum. The lies are maintenance. The truth would collapse the floorboards. Because if the world knew that Europe industrialized slavery and called itself abolitionist, if they knew that democratic indigenous governments were destroyed to install monarchies and puppet regimes, if they knew that Europe's civilizing missions involved famine, sterilization, language erasure, museum theft, and state-engineered extinction campaigns, then there would be nothing left to claim. No moral ground, no myth of progress, just receipts written in blood and buried under their museums. This is why their timelines start with Plato and end with Churchill. Why every world history class skips from Greece to Galileo like nothing of value happened in those 2,000 years between, unless it was white and male and drawing triangles. Europe didn't document history. It hunted it and locked it in glass. It renamed it And when we speak the truth out loud, we get banned from TikTok. But this isn't revision. This is restoration. We're not studying Europe. We're surviving its edits. Cope.